गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आज के इस गुरुशाला संवाद में। अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू ऑल ऑफ यू इन टुडेज गुरुशाला संवाद। आज हमारे साथ है मिस प्रकृति। शी इज़ अ साइकोलॉजिस्ट एंड अमेरिकन इंडिया फाउंडेशन की फेलो भी हैं, बैनियन इम्पैक्ट फेलो। आज हम बात करेंगे गुरुशाला संवाद में रोल ऑफ सोसाइटी इन स्टूडेंट्स मेंटल एंड इमोशनल वेलबींग के बारे में। So I would request Prakriti to take the session forward.
Thank you for the introduction, Akriti. So, I am Prakriti, and you can let me know whichever language you are comfortable in conversing. I'll be mostly conversing in Hindi. I am comfortable in conversing in Hindi and English. So, let us take
Sure.
it forward.
Sure,
So,
we can have a conversation in Hindi or English, whatever is comfortable with you, and also the audience. So I would request teachers, आप whatever language is comfortable for you, आप हमें comments में बताइए आपको कोई doubt होता है during the session. So you can let us know in the comments if you have any question, and Prakriti and I would be very happy to address it.
great. So, let us move on. I just want like to understand what kind of living conditions does students in your school face in general at home and society? What kind of environment they have around it? And it's okay if you can answer, and in case you're not able to answer, so I will answer it from experiences that I have had with teachers. So please share the video.
Yeah.
So I have,
So teachers, yeah.
please go
Yes, so
ahead.
I was just saying that Risina ma'am is saying that she is more comfortable in English, so we can go ahead in English. And ma'am, I was saying, teachers, as Prakriti was saying, कि we have to answer to this question that what kind of living condition does students in your school face in general, at home and society. So I would request all of them to share your answers.
You can just write your answers in the comment box, and till the time you are answering, I will just share some experiences that I have seen and the answers that teachers have given before. Some teachers have given the answer that their children who have a single parent at times, so that is one response. So there are children who come from a space where there are no public transportation, there is not a lot of resources available around them, so that is second. Third, some teachers have shared that there are children who also come from a area which is poverty strict, there's a lot of poverty and there's violence that the children see around, so that is also one of the condition, right? So which all condition do you people face? You can write that. Yeah. So
Correct.
if these, yeah, go ahead if you would like to add something.
Yeah. No. I was just requesting them कि वो answers share करें comments में, and so that we can make it more interactive. Yeah.
Yes, that would be really great. And in case you're not able to share that and that is not work, if yeah, so if there are many situations that children see. There are children who, and the more stricken they are, the more financial issues they have, the more problems that they face, especially children coming from rural, tribal areas. One condition is such that children whose parents are not educated, so that also is a impediment in their growth, right? So all these factors, along with children who come from a area where the society or the people around are very nagging and they try to intrude in their private space, and the area has a lot of gossips going around, so that kind of situation also impacts, right? These are some of the examples of how a child can be impacted by things around them. So what is the role of society in child's development? Yeah, the role of the child society is a very big role that society plays in the development of a child. So the society creates the environment that the child is growing up in, and special along with the parents, along with the people they are interacting with. For example, if a child has an environment where people are not very interactive, people keep to themselves, that will hamper the growth of communication of the child, because They're living in an environment that they can't go out and communicate. However, you must have seen, if I ask you, Akriti, right, I will just try to have this conversation with you. That would be better. So if I ask you, there's two situations. There's a child who has an environment wherever whenever he or she goes out, they can say hi, hello to their neighbors. They can always interact, have that small talk. And then there is an environment where the child can't go out because there's a lot of violence and people do not talk in a good manner, and the parents just keep telling the child ghar pe raho, ghar pe raho, just keep at home, keep at home. Which environment do you think would be more fruitful for the child, and why?
I think, according to me, the first one, because matlab it's very important for a child to have a friendly and a peaceful environment. क्योंकि जैसे कहते हैं ना घर से सीखते हैं, तो it is very important for them and it is important for their upbringing also.
So that was an apt answer. As we all know that a person, a child having that space to interact with people, having that peaceful environment, right? Because for a child, it's very important to feel safe. That is a physiological need that a child has, that I have to feel safe, right? And unless a child is feeling safe, he or she will not be able to grow socially. The social awareness will also not come, right? So that's why it's very important that the child get that kind of environment around him or her. And if that doesn't happen, the child can it can really impact the overall growth of the child, because the hormones that are being secreted for the happy hormones, serotonin, oxytocin, which are being released, right? They will not get released because the child, that toxic environment can really impediment the releasing of those hormones, and cortisol, which is a stress hormone, will get released most because the child is trying to deal with the environment. So that
बिल्कुल, आई वुड जस्ट लाइक टू ऐड वन मोर थिंग टू इट। आई थिंक ये बहुत बिहेवियरल इश्यूज भी होते हैं बच्चों में बिकॉज ऑफ इट। बहुत बच्चे इरिटेटेड रहते हैं, दे आर मोर ऑफ इंट्रोवर्ट, दे डोंट शेयर, दे वुड नॉट लाइक टू शेयर बिकॉज फॉर देम इट्स सॉर्ट ऑफ अ ह्यूमिलेशन जब घर में ऐसा इन्वायरमेंट रहता है, तो इट डज इम्पैक्ट देयर सोशल लाइफ एंड देयर बिहेवियर एंड हाउ दे पुट अप देमसेल्व्स इन फ्रंट ऑफ अदर्स।
Yes, I think that's a really good addition. It does impact the behavioral side and how they put up. So, like we were talking about the first example. So, what happens when the community and the family is also very good and really supportive towards the child? That kind of experience actually yields a lot of confidence and leadership skills, because the child has that kind of belief in himself and herself that I can do things, that I will be able to go through things, right? And they have better communication and expression as well. They are more self-aware about their situation and socially aware, because they have to interact with people and understand the way other people are behaving and why they are behaving. They are also good in navigating and negotiating situations. So their soft skills, as we say it, are heightened, and they are more developed in comparison to children who have situations and circumstances which are not good for their growth. And negative side of such environment there are also negative side of such environment. A lot of high expectation these children can face, that there's a lot of high expectation from them when it comes to family, when it comes to their peers. So there's a lot of high expectation from children. And there's also guilt at times, because if they're not able to do something, there's guilt that builds up, and that really affects the child. But that can be worked out if the parents are open and supportive. They're open and accepting of the child. However, if we come to the other side of it, so this is one of the researches that I would like to share with all of you. It actually talks about what Akriti also mentioned, the behavioral aspect. So this study actually talks about, this was an analysis of many researches that had taken place, especially around the environment influence on child mental health. It talks about the risk, the multiple risks, if the environment is as such as we were talking about. There is violence, the environment makes you feel unsafe, there's poverty stricken environment. So all this does impact how the person, it impacts the prevalence of disease. As you all know, there's malnutrition, there's stunting, right? And it also impacts the growth of the mind, so cognitive growth is also impeded. and affected by it. And then there is emotional problems, there are behavioral issues, there are genetical and psychological environment problem as well that can be developed in a child. Like for example, a lot of children who have such situations, they can, it is quite it is quite normal that they have conduct disorder, that they're not able to conduct themselves very nicely, and they indulge in behaviors, indulge in situations that can be really detrimental for their own health and their own safety and other safety as well. Like children who try to bully other children. So those kind of environments do have an impact. And there are also children who are not able to speak up for themselves. So that environment is also there. And children who are not, children who are whose immunity is compromised at times, this can, mental health, the environment can also impact those kind of situations and those kind of outcomes. That is one. I would really request you all to interact, so because I would like to understand what you all are thinking. So that would help me understand and maybe speak more as well. And then there is adverse childhood experiences, as we were talking. So there was this study in 1997 or 98 in US that there are there are 10 ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. There's a questionnaire of this, that if these things have happened with a child, for example, household challenges, abuse and neglect, if the child's emotional and physically and emotionally, if the child has been neglected, there has been abuse with the child, physical and emotional abuse with the child, or if the child has witnessed emotional and physical abuse with others, seeing the mother and the, yeah, so seeing the mother being physically abused or domestic abuse, so that can also impact the growth of the child, right? So there is actually a course on UNICEF, engaging father, so that talks about if the father is not engaged, how does that impact the cognitive, emotional and psychological growth of the child. And it also impacts the, if the father is not involved, it actually impacts the child's performance in maths and science. That has been part of some of the studies that they have found. Yeah, and I would just want to check. Yes, there is someone saying hello. Hello, Alice. So, and if there are people who have there are children who have four or more ACEs, if they have seen domestic violence, if they have seen poverty, if they have seen someone attempting suicide or being planning to do harm themselves, it can have, ACEs have such impact that there are four times, as you can see on the screen if I share it with you people, right? So you look at it. So it actually increases three times level of lung diseases, and adult smoking increases if a person has seen childhood adverse experiences. So that happens, right? And then the person can, it increases 14 times, increases the number of suicide attempts. So that's how it impacts a child and an adult's mental health as well. There are 4.5% chances of developing depression because they have seen domestic violence, substance abuse at home, mental illness of a parent or a primary caregiver. They have seen parental separation, could be divorce, and they have, so these, all these factors clubbed together have an immense impact on the child. And not just this, it impacts the overall physical growth and physical health as well. They are more likely, twice likely to have a level of liver disease. There, and also there, it also makes it important that we talk about sexual education, because these children who have such situations are more likely, four times more likely to engage in sexual acts around the age of 15, right? So this kind of situation, the environment has such a big impact on children, right? So if you have any question around this, that how we can have a look at it, you can also look at adverse childhood experiences research. There have been a lot of research around this, and this research is something I also conducted in India, and from my own experiences, I can say that there are a lot of ACEs that exist in India. For example, children being beaten up by their parents, and that being very normal and seen as something that is actually adding up to the personality of the child and making them disciplined. So these kind of situations and environmental parts of the environment have a very direct impact on the child's mental health, right? Yeah, so these were some of the things that can affect the child's mental health. If the child has seen maternal depression, how does maternal depression impact the mental health? See, if the mother, and we are not just talking about the mother, we are talking about the primary caregiver. That can be mother, that can be father. So it's maternal depression, postpartum depression, and things like that. That can affect because the child doesn't get the required attention, and the child feels neglected, and that has an impact on how the child really perceive things, right? The things which were required, the bodily mechanisms and the social mechanisms which were required for some other thing, maybe for helping the child feel better at something, right? Just to adjust in life or to communicate or to develop some other skills, those that energy is being used for a very different purpose. The purpose is to just to feel safe or to feel that I am enough. So this can really impact the confidence of the child, the way he or she interacts, the way he or she asks for help. Children who have seen their mother in depression find it difficult to ask for help because they know that they can't really go around, and they always have this feeling that what if the mother is not able to help, or what if I am taking a lot of space and I am the reason that she is not doing well. Because children mostly think that they are the reason of whatever is going on, they are the reason of parents not feeling well, because they can't understand the environment and how other things can impact. And children from a young age have a egocentric way of looking at themselves and the world. So it's important that these things are kept in mind when we are also interacting with children as teachers, because teachers and school have a very significant role to play, because they are also a very big socializing space for children, right? So this, it is important that we try to have. That's why there was an introduction in Delhi and Uttarakhand about social emotion learning. Social emotion learning is one way that can help with the ACE situation that is happening with many children. That ACE is something that adverse childhood experience is something that directly impacts the child mental, physical, cognitive health. However, if there is introduction of social emotion learning in school, that can actually, that is also an environmental, and that is environmental addition that we are giving to the child, and that can improve social emotional, like for example self awareness can improve the way you look at yourself, the way you detach also from situations which are not which are not created by you, right? So
बिल्कुल
and still,
आई एम सो सॉरी टू कट यू अभी आपने बोला दैट यू वर जस्ट सेइंग कि डिटैच कर देते सो देयर इज़ अ क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम famous joy teacher. He is saying that is it abnormal for a child to be introvert? How do we encourage children to socialize more?
okay, that's a good question. See, it's not abnormal for a child to be an introvert. Being introvert has nothing to do with communication. Being introvert and extrovert is basically an energy situation. Basically, an introvert gets energy by rejuvenating and staying with themselves. However, extroverts get energy from interacting with other people. But there are many leaders, if you say Elon Musk is one of them, Bill Gates is one of them, uh, F, the person who started FB, and so many people who are there and they are introverts. It's not important that you have to be an extrovert to be able to to have that kind of exchange with people or communication. However, it is important that you know how to communicate. So these are two different things. There are people who are extroverted but know very well how to communicate, right? So that's a skill, and we can build communication skill with people. Being introvert has nothing to do with being not having that kind of interaction skill. It's more of a association that we associate. Like, you must have seen that there are people who are very good at interacting, but they would not like to, they have really good boundaries as well. So there's no connection between it, I would say.
बिल्कुल
But
करेक्ट. Totally agree with that. Okay, so there is another question. Kennedy ma'am is saying, what about the stakeholders of society often create an interactive environment by visiting school and conducting workshops?
I think that is a very good. See, it's very important that we have those elements as well for those children, and that's why this is a positive addition, as I said, social emotion learning, and these workshops are also that way. However, just think about this: that there is a child who is who is not doing well, right? There are 1 or 2 days that he or she is doing well, and we are taking them out, right? The overall health of the child is not good, so workshops are good. But what we really need to do, we need to inculcate those kind of attitude and beliefs in teachers and in everyone in the environment, so that it's not just one workshop, right? It's every class that the child has the choice to speak, has the space to speak, is not humiliated publicly, because a lot of children or a lot of adults come for therapy that they have been humiliated by teachers in school because the teacher was not doing well. They have expressed something, said something very something to the teacher, to the child. So it's also important to take care of the people who are around these children, right? It's important to take care of their mental health. As I was talking about adverse childhood experiences, it has nothing to do with the child, but what the child is witnessing around them, the environment around
They
the child.
need to be sensitized as well.
Right. They need to be sensitized. They need to inculcate those kind of, they need to inculcate self-awareness, that how am I feeling. Teachers, mostly teachers at times are not able to apologize when they are wrong in the class, and we can't, and that happens with teachers, that happens with parents. So we can't expect a child to be apologetic when he or she is doing something wrong, right? They imitate whatever they say, they take on and they imitate. So workshops are important, but we need teachers to have, to be, to have that kind of sensibilities, and it will happen only when we provide the teachers that space to have those sensibilities and express themselves. When, so there's an egalitarian environment that we need, where teachers can also express themselves and criticism becomes important. Because in India, maybe Akriti can also add that in India, mostly children in India and also abroad, not just in India, it's very difficult for people to have conflict or show anger in a productive manner, right? So those kind of situations are also there, that a child or an adult, even as adults, we are not able to express ourselves when it comes to anger. So it's important to develop those kind of skills. It's a skill, right? And there are many situation, many small examples that I can, some small example that I can give you. When a child talks to himself, how he or she is talking, if a child says, I am stupid, right? That is me. It is internalized. I am stupid. I am the person who is stupid. Then there is second situation. I do stupid things. It's the things that he is doing, he or she is doing are stupid, right? And which is allowed. And this comes from the kind of interactions adults are having with the child. If as an adult, I am always, I, if whenever I do something wrong, I'm just go like, I'm stupid, I don't know anything, right? The child will pick that. However, when I'm doing something wrong or stupid, I just say, oh, I did something stupid. That's so crazy. Right? That's the difference. The interaction. And that comes when we as adults are sensitive. We know how we are talking to ourselves. The self awareness comes from that, and how you're managing. For example, why did I talk about corporal punishment in schools or children being beaten up? I had this interaction with a couple of parents. I interacted with them, asked if you are in a good mood and the child is making a fuss, would you just slap the child? They said, no, we will not. We just be patient with the child, right? And I asked them that in the same situation, you are in bad mood, the child is doing the same thing. Will you slap the child? They're like, yes, we will do that. So is it always the child that we are displacing our anger on the child? It's we who are not able to manage ourselves. We are not able to manage our own emotions, and that's why we're taking it out on the child. I don't know how to manage my anger, so I'm taking out on the child. So but an adult who knows how he or she should manage his or her anger will also be a good role model for the child to be able to manage his or her anger. So that's why it's important as an adult, as a environment provider, that you know how to manage your emotions, and your emotions are not transmitted to the child, because children who are 8 or 7 months old, they are able to sense the emotion of the parent and act accordingly. This is how sensitive we as human race are, right? So, and then there is social awareness. Why I say the social awareness is important, and this can be taught in social emotion learning. Social awareness is important because when, for example, there is a mother who invites people around her just on the weekend and talks to them that okay, this is how we organize parties, have interaction with neighbors, right? Will her child be someone who will not like to go out and interact with people? That's very unlikely. However, there is a parent, mother or father, right, who who is not able to, who doesn't have a very cordial relationship with the neighbors, with the society people. Obviously, the child will think that the environment is not such that I can go out. It could be the child, it could be the environment. That will hamper the kind of interaction, communication, the negotiation skill the child will be able to develop as an adult. Because that will always stay. Because the child will always feel that I have to keep to myself. I don't really have to interact with others. I can manage on my own. Society and interactions and relationships around you are not very important, right? So every kind of interaction, so social awareness is important. And these children usually struggle when it comes to jobs, but they don't know how to understand the politics of jobs, or the way they are supposed to put forward their arguments or interact with people who are in different positions, right? So all that impacts. Then we come to the relationship skills, how relationships are impacted. Relationships are the playing field of any environment or situation that we have seen as adults, as children, as children. So, the kind of environment we saw between our parents or the media, the kind of media that we are consuming, right? All that impacts the relationships we have. And that obviously is directly implied and connected to the decisions we make, the kind of decisions we are making, the kind of interactions, the kind of behavior that we are indulging in. So, all this has a very direct impact on the child overall development. And we're talking about a very normal child. We're not getting to where there is violence, right? Because if there is violence, if the child is witnessing violence, these children will find it difficult to be these there are two scenarios that these children usually go into. They are very violent because all they are trying to do always is protect themselves. They are very violent at times, and they try to threaten other people or try to bully other people if they have seen violence, right? Second is that they become isolated from others, try to defend themselves in an isolated way. There are two kind of people: the one who will fight it and try to suppress other people, and there are one who will try to isolate from them. both of them are struggling, but the way they chose to struggle is different. And gender also has a very big role in the way people express themselves. The way males are allowed in our society to express and females are allowed, that also has a very different, that has a different perception and the effect on the mind, right? So if you would like to ask any questions, please go ahead. I think that would be best.
So, teachers, if you have any questions, you can ask, ma'am. So, Rosina, ma'am,
Yeah, there is
actually,
one.
yeah,
You said, go ahead.
yeah, I
Yeah,
was
this
just saying,
Sinaji. Yeah, yes. Some people.
yes.
So this is true. There are many teachers who are not able to understand and manage their own anger, and it gets displayed in the class, right? And it usually gets displayed on children who are not able to speak for themselves. They usually would not. This is an observation. Teachers do not usually beat up or even punish. Now beating up is not even in the in the is not happening anymore, is something I'm aware. So they do not even punish or try to do something to the child who is usually the bully of the class. And at times teachers who have low self confidence also get bullied by those children. So those kind of dynamics also exist. So it's important, and teachers when they are not able to manage their anger, they usually go to children who will not stand up to them. So that further, if the child is you already not someone who is able to speak up in class, and if you also try to humiliate the child, because this is an experience a lot of children have, that a teacher saying something, right? And I have also, and the child who is already troubled, maybe there's a child who saw his or her parents fight in the same night, and there is an exam that the child has to sit. The child did not perform well, and now we are just bashing at the child, humiliating him or her in the class, telling his marks to everyone. It's important to have that confidentiality as a teacher. And teachers also talk among themselves how the child is doing. So if one teacher has a bad experience, the child is very. It's quite often if you have an image of a child, it's very difficult for that child to grow out of that image with time. That is something true that happens with a lot of children. And at times, I've also seen siblings also play a very significant role. And in the same school, there are two siblings who are in the same school. One is doing very well, and the other one is just trying to match up to the standards the other child has established. And the teachers will never let him or her forget that you have a sibling who is good at something. And you know
I would
how.
just like to add that this happened with me. My sister would excel, and I would be an average student in school, and the same would happen. The teacher would be like, you are your sister, like she was your sister. Okay, and what happened to you? Indirectly,
and
they would say.
And how difficult, I will ask you this actually. How difficult was it to find your own identity?
I mean, it was really difficult because I mean, as a child, I did not even understand why are they doing that to me, and तब शायद इतना समझ भी नहीं आता था. But there was a sense of shame, I would say. I had that they are comparing me, and I as a child always knew that I am different, she is different, and everything is different. सबका capability is different, so you should not compare.
Did your parents compare?
No, no, they did not. It was
Yes.
mostly at school.
See, the reason I asked you this question because I knew you had the sense that you both are different because your parents never compared.
Yeah,
If they would also compare both of you would not have that sense that I am different and I should be valued for being different.
yeah,
So, and this is what it is. This is why it is important to have social emotional learning as well in schools. Even if there is one place where someone makes you feel understood, you feel that someone gets you, someone understands you, someone respects you, right? You will flourish, you will find your way, because there's someone who is giving you, helping you understand that sense of self. For Akriti, it was her parents. I'm not saying they would be best in every aspect, at least they did not compare. And that really helped her not take that comparison of school very personally, right? So that one element can really help. So this is also a part of the adverse childhood experiences study, that even if you have one person, right, who you can trust, who can keep your conversation confidential, who can understand you, validate your emotions, really take care of whatever you're going through, and help you manage your emotions, you can sail through. And there's a movie called I'm just forgetting the name of the movie. It's Famous Writers, something of that sort. So it is actually about a teacher who believed in children who came from a striven environment with who have seen violence, and she found ways to talk to them, interact with them, and those children flourished because someone believed in them. And, this is a very common thing that happens with children, that no one really expects something from them. Children who are backbenchers, no one really expects something out of them, so they never feel that we have to deliver anything. And this is where it gets affected, because there are children who are not expecting anything, there are children who are expecting a lot, and both of them are suffering, right? Yes, we should not compare our children, because everyone has his or her uniqueness. Absolutely, that is absolutely right. We should not. And that also comes from our own self awareness, that if you have been compared, for example, Akriti has been compared, and it is very common that if you have been compared, you might take that comparison to your relationships as well. At times, if you have seen that comparison a lot, you might compare. If you have partners or you have friends, you might compare them, that this one was better. Because when we are comparing someone, we are telling them that you are an object and you can be replaced. This person can replace. And when we say they're unique, we're saying you are an individual who has his or her own identity, and you are someone valuable, right? So yeah. And there was another question.
Yeah. So
Why?
there was another question. Sangati Jamir, she is asking, why do the children try to hide, shy, or run away from the teachers outside the school?
Okay. There are many reasons that children do that. Children, children do not know how to actually see. There's a very big difference when teachers behave like teachers. They do not have a friendly relationship with children at times, right? That impacts you there. It also happens with children that they also run away when there is a classmate who they do not like, and they run away like, nay, we don't want to interact with this person, because they don't have that kind of friendship, right? And there are also teachers that children come to school to meet even after when they have finished their schools, right? So it actually depends on the kind of rapport children have. And there's a psychological reason also, like for example, what kind of rapport in general you have with authority. Authority is also a representation of the paternal function, the paternal energy, right? So if the paternal energy has been, a child knows someone, has a parent. It doesn't have to be always father. A parent who is very authoritative doesn't give him or her space to go out or express himself, tries to just shut them off, right? That child will have issues with authority. And that issue will show not just when the child is interacting with that parent or that authority figure at home, but authority figures in general. That's why there are some children who are very rebellious towards children or teachers, right? So that shows. So that's why there are children who are very shy, and there are children who are shy by nature as well, and that's okay. It there's one thing that teachers can do: take things as skills. When we say that communication skill, when we say leadership skill, because skill can be learned, right? And if you inculcate that kind of feeling in a child, that whatever you are sharing, it's a skill and this can be inculcated, children will surely express themselves in express and learn those skills as skills. But if we say that this is a part of your personality, this is who you are, then the child will make sure that he or she will stick to the labels that we have given them. That's why it's important to not give children label and always take these things as skills. So a shy, we can all, you can have an interaction with a shy child and just tell, oh, you have really good observation skill, because children stick to the labels that we are giving them. If you label a child shy, if you label a child rebellious, he or she will prove that he or she is rebellious. There's actually a show called Modern Family. I'll just give an example from that show. In that show, there's a mother whose child Manny was not really good at studies as a child, but she made sure she would just tell him stories. Oh, you were so good. You were an exceptional kid. You started reading French and Russian and what language when you were just 1.5 year old. The child believed it, and he actually inculcated those skills because someone made him believe that, right? So it's important what we believe and what we are actually feeding to the other person, that makes their concept of self. And it's very important in our environment, because as a child I don't know who I am. I understand myself sense of self from the other, right? So it's important. So maybe we can take some questions. Yeah.
Yes, so Kennedy ma'am had a question. She said, "How about society gives recognition and appreciates teachers who are giving going the extra mile. It takes a toll on dedicated teachers who are always generalized or sidelined."
So I think that's a very important thing. There are many teachers who are
Correct.
trying to do a
Yes.
lot, right? And they
During
should get.
lockdown only, yeah, we can see that teachers personally घर जाकर they distributed notes when students had no connection. I know personally when Kennedy ma'am ka experience, she told me that we were going out and distributing notes to students because they had no internet connections.
Yeah.
So definitely teachers are going extra mile and making an effort.
Yeah, and currently there's a lot of pressure on teachers to document this, that, and so much of pressure, because that's why it's important not just for teachers but the whole environment to be such. Because if you as a teacher have a lot of pressure that if you do not do this, right, if your children, children who are studying in your class do not excel in maths or science, right, it will impact you. Then obviously you will just focus on teaching them science or maths or just making them rote learn whatever they can, right? You will not try to enhance their skills of communication, of leadership, or you will not give them team projects or something, because even you are so pressurized you will pass it on. That's why it's the environment, it's the whole environment that has to work. And all the teachers who are here and listening to this, always that have that will and that desire to improve and help the children, or else why would you do that? So there's obviously a need to appreciate each and every teacher who is here and listening to this and tries to read and give back to their children. But it's the whole environment that has to be worked upon, is something I feel. Because as teachers,
Definitely.
yeah, the principal has to, and they also have to take that criticism, right? And that shows.
Yeah.
Because I have seen a lot of teachers who have really good ideas, really brilliant ideas, but
Yeah.
they are also not getting that space to be creative and share their ideas. So yes,
Because
that's
there's not enough appreciation, then even then what happens in the end, they stop doing that. So it's very important that we some or the other way reward them.
yeah. And we as teachers also, if teacher, there's a lot of comparison between teachers, right? Or there's this, that who is doing better, and children also take benefit of that. Children understand it, right? So it's the whole environment of the school that really matters. Teachers are doing their bit. It's the higher authorities also, how they are, the kind of rules they bring up. The teachers are also at times expected that you just have to wear sari. with their freedom, right? There are many things that are not good, and that impacts the development of the child also. Because if I am not free, I can't really give freedom to the other child. I can try. It gets difficult for them also, and they have their personal lives as well. So yeah, it's important to appreciate.
Totally. So Kennedy ma'am shared another thought that isn't it a teacher's contribution to society's welfare if is about reaching out to one student at a time, maybe insignificant in terms of statistics, but life is changing one student at a time.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good. I think you have already answered yours. It's more of the
Yeah.
appreciation factors that it's important, and that's what we're talking about. Teachers have that space, and it's important that we give teachers that space to be able to do that. And this is one issue that we're trying so much emphasis is on the quantity that we are actually forgetting the quality. There, when you look at foreign schools, there are 12 or 15 children per teacher. In India, in government school, there are 50 children per teacher. How much of attention
No,
we
no,
can
that definitely affects. आप अटेंशन ही नहीं दे पाते हो किसी एक बच्चे को तो छोड़ो मतलब you cannot even what kind of education will we get?
right? And you can't even cater to the education level of each child. It's their children who are very good at studying, so they are the ones who always keep answering in the class, right? So that kind of structure does have a negative impact. We are also already answering how school structure have a negative impact as well, right? So it's important to look at those structures as well. Yeah.
So, Rosina ma'am has said that in fact, weaker students should be encouraged. We should make them believe that they can do better, and our encouragement helps them to do better. Recently, in my class, I have come across such a situation. So, I'm sure ma'am maybe she would have applied some sort of method or इन्होंने communicate किया होगा definitely.
And I would just add to that that there
Yeah.
is one method that I can give, and this will really help. This is a part of community psychology that we do. That when there is a child who is not doing very good at school, right? Make sure that you give another child responsibility to help this child speak in the class, and you have to have that interaction with the other child that okay, you are the one who has to help this child understand, learn the class things, and then this child, if this child is speaking, that means you were a successful leader, right? What is happening? The child who is helping the other child, he or she is becoming a leader first. Second, the child who is getting the help, he or she will we have that kind of bond with someone else, that rapport is being formed, communication skills will become stronger, and will also get that push to speak. So in this way the teachers don't have to take the onus of everything, right? Because teachers, as we are talking about it, teachers don't always have the time to take onus of everything. So it, you can use this tactics as well. Yeah, so if there is any other question, we can go ahead with it.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just a comment from Barna Roy Chaudhary. She's saying that children come to school from different social environment and should be encouraged by the teachers to adjust themselves in the environment. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very valid point, and teachers should be mindful of what is going on. Yeah, I think there's comments.
Yeah, Shambha ma'am is saying that I feel that a child's home environment plays a very important role in the positive growth of the child. Like you also said in the beginning, that it really matters.
Yes, it does really matter. It does.
Yes.
Communication, leadership skills, cognitive skills, critical thinking, right? All this gets developed if there's a child who has a family, like supportive family, families who have interactions, families who discuss things, families who take collective decisions. All those environments impact, and that's where good leaders become. There's a family who's taking only, just imagine only the mother or the father is taking the decision. But in a family where the child is involved in decision making, what kind of leader that child will become? That child will become a leader who involves everyone, doesn't differentiate, oh, this person can't be involved. This is hierarchy. It doesn't believe in that kind of hierarchy because that has not been his learning, right? So yeah,
Yes.
it has.
Now we can move ahead with the PPT. Yeah.
I think I am done here.
Okay.
Yeah.
ठीक है. So teachers, I would request if you have any other questions, you can let us know in the comments. And yes, I'll also be sharing a attendance form with you, which you can fill it up and mark your attendance for today. So if there is anything else, then we can continue or we can wrap up the session. So is there anything else that you would like to say, Prakriti?
Yeah, I think teachers are doing an awesome job, and there's a lot. I'm really happy that all of you are joining over here and trying to do these things. One thing I can say, try to make the children the leaders. Even if you want someone to speak up, like for example, I am working with children who are living in rural and tribal areas right now. I make sure that when I make a group of children who need some help in communication and leadership, children who are very good at leading, and tell them that you are the people who have to help these children as children so that they can speak up in class. If they are speaking up, that means you are successful. Then those children make make sure, and then we have a discussion with those children. How are you making sure? What kind of interactions are you engaging in? So they are becoming leaders. Others are becoming communicators, and together they are becoming collaborators. Right? So you can try to do this the same thing, and so that you don't always have to take this pain of doing it. Right? So yeah, this is one.
Correct. So I think just one comment, last comment that Chandrakala ji कह रहे हैं that very resourceful session. So thanks to you, Prakriti. Thank you so much. We had a lovely time. काफी fruitful and insightful session था and lot we got to know lot. Teachers ने अपने views share किए. So thank you so much. We would love having you here and we would love to do one more session with you. थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच टीचर्स. आपके साथ अटेंडेंस फॉर्म का लिंक हमने कमेंट में शेयर कर दिया है, सो डू फिल इट अप. सो थैंक यू सो
Thank
मच. हैव अ नाइस डे.
you too.